How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the James Loud Podcast. And today our special guest is Julie from SKUNK Magazine. How are you doing today, Julie?
I'm doing great. Good to be with you, James.
Good to have you here. We've been talking about doing this for a while. I'm glad we finally got to catch up.
Yeah, it's awesome. I remember being here like a year and a half ago, 2 years. Time flies when you first had it. And it's just looking amazing.
Building a facility is no joke. People don't understand it takes twice as much money and takes twice as long as you typically start out thinking it's going to. So
true. And when you want to do it right, you're a long game person, and so am I.
Right.
And so you take your time, slow and steady.
100%.
And develop it proper. And good things take time. So very happy for you, James, though. It's looking good in here.
Life's an adventure. It's about yes, the journey, not the destination, because the destination is death.
True. So no one gets out of here alive.
No. Well, not that we know of.
Yeah.
Right.
My favorite teacher says it's all about becoming the master dancer. So you can dance with everything that life throws at you.
Yeah.
And it's just a dance. There's all kinds of dances.
For sure.
But yeah.
I think enduring pain and appreciating the struggle is part of the journey. And as I've gotten older, that's the one thing I've learned is the struggle is where it's at.
Yeah. I just did a video about it, about how the worthy opponent or the worthy tyrant or things that cross us or challenge us is actually what brings out our greatest soul expression.
Sure.
And you don't run from it. There's a sense, I'm almost 50, I'm 47. And so I've been feeling also that same thing where you kind of lean into it. Mm-hmm. The pain and the challenge and the intensity, because you know what's coming is the same. I always say that the measure of the challenge matches the measure of the gift.
Your enemies make you stronger.
They do.
Yeah,
they do. And so I think in that mentality, you can be a victor in every situation. Yeah. Never a victim.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very cool.
Yeah. Getting older has its benefits. It's so funny because getting older definitely has its benefits too. I mean, when I was younger, when I was 18, I thought the age I'm at right now is so old. And now that I'm at that age, I'm like, it's not that old, but
I know.
We're the same age too. So
it's funny. I know. It's a trip. I mean, I think that cannabis keeps us young. Yeah. Even though I say that the cannabis industry ages you in dog years.
Sure.
And I definitely look a lot older than when we first met.
Yeah.
But I also think there's a sense of youthfulness that comes from just being with the plant and the kind of the purity, not all the bullshit of the industry, but the purity of that passion for the plant, as you always do your hashtag. Yeah. That's what keeps us young and vibrant and connected and enthusiastic.
Yeah, I think we're blessed to be in an industry that you can be extremely passionate about. And I think the more you put into it, the more you get back. And whatever you do in life, if you're passionate about it, you're going to be good at it at a certain point.
I think so. Yeah, just continue.
That's continue what I'm seeing.
Fight. Yeah, it's all about perseverance. It's all about not stopping.
Yeah, this industry's rough.
It is. People are like, how the fuck, do you do this with the magazine? And, I just say don't stop.
Yeah.
Because no matter what happens, if you don't stop, and you stay consistent, you're going to hit your mark. And I'm definitely feeling that and experiencing that. And it's like you're your own constant.
Yeah.
You're your own center in the storm, not circumstance, not people, not situations. It's you.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's also the kind of deep medicine of the plant too. And I'm finding that in business. It's kind of very cool that the spiritual and the business are merging into one. Yeah. And that's what I feel the Renaissance that I always talk about is about.
Yeah, that was going to be the subject for the podcast, was the Green Renaissance, because I think you coined that term, and a large majority of the industry definitely can relate to the Green Renaissance movement, especially the people in the industry that were here before legalization, that even before Prop 215 in medical, but like that Green Renaissance movement, which it is. I think there's a lot of us that can relate to that. I mean, the newer generation, maybe they see it, but they aren't necessarily the ones who created it. They can jump on board.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, it's pretty profound, James, because, I became a certified herbalist 26 years ago. And that's when I got keyed into, just from my background with art and culture and studying global theologies. I felt as a young woman that, Mother Earth was propagating consciousness with her plants. And I saw that the psychedelic movement and the cannabis movement, the counterculture movement in general, over the last century and a quarter, was really about these kind of counterculture rebels through time that were pushing the envelope open. And what the commonality was working with the plants.
Right.
And the plants opening up their consciousness. And then I found it really fascinating that a lot of these people ended up being visionaries who were creating new styles of business, new styles of companies, and how companies, the idea of conscious commerce or sacred commerce, that started emerging from the hippies. And, it's just carrying through time. And
the hippies and the yippies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, 12 years ago when I came into SKUNK and I had the opportunity to really coin it, I wanted to contrast that the green rush, even though we were all dealing with it and are still dealing with it, right, and we'll be dealing with it for the next 10, 20 years as prohibition fully ends and we deal with the quagmire of legalization. I just kept feeling like we need to talk about the Renaissance. We need to talk about what's actually happening, that we're in the midst of a second Renaissance. And back then it was like, who's this crazy bitch fucking talking about a Renaissance?
Yeah.
But now, oh my goodness, it's like extremely relevant. And everybody that I'm speaking to, no matter where I go in the world, is feeling it and seeing it. And that's been really profound.
It's almost as big as the separation between the right and the left, right? Because I feel like we were all blended more so before 2020, and then COVID happened and there was this big separation. And I feel like that separation, left and right, it's not the same as with the Green Renaissance. It's, but it is there. It is, and there is a separation.
There's a shakeup.
You're seeing it more so because I feel like everybody before 2018 was really part of that movement, right? To build it up. It was illegal. People were pushing boundaries. And now we're seeing people that are in it for the money, or people that never saw that side of it. They never saw the struggle. They never saw people going to jail for 20 years or 40 years or whatever it is.
Right.
And so there's a different perspective. And I think moving forward, it's just great to be able to remind the younger generation and the people that are getting into the industry that have only been here for 4 years that these are the struggles that we had to go through. And oral history of cannabis, that's why we're doing this show. You have SKUNK Magazine now.
Yeah.
And SKUNK Magazine is an oral history of cannabis, something that 100 years from now we can look back on and go, okay, Mila Jansen, for example, she was special. And this is why she was special. And also the crazy times, I feel like there's so much stuff that's counterintuitive that people were like, oh man, this. And actually it's the complete opposite. But
yeah. Yeah, it's quite fascinating. I mean, being a part of, I've been in the industry for 18 years and part of the global space.
Right.
So I got to see all the different marketplaces and all the different movements in unique countries, unique states. But with SKUNK, when I came in 12 years ago, being a historian or telling stories throughout the last 12 years, it's pretty profound. And it's suited to me because I like to think of things in terms of decades and centuries of time.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly when you were talking about the pandemic, it's a parallel. In the last Renaissance, 20 million died in the Black Plague, and that caused the shakeup of church and state and allowed people to start to find ways to gain wealth, gain land, gain upward mobility in the economic class. And it's similar and different. The reason why I call it green is because this Renaissance is really about people becoming earth connected again and connected to the plants, understanding how sustainable, how powerful and self-sufficient we really can be.
Yeah.
When we learn that we are stewards, we're meant to practice husbandry. We're meant to live in communion with the earth and with the seasons. And it's been fascinating to kind of hold that line for something so pure and so connected with the heart and what's real and what's true amidst all the craziness of this industry. And then also just stay connected with the purity of the storytelling based upon merit We're not a pay to play. People can't just buy their way in. It's about merit.
Yeah.
And like you said, Mila, for instance, has greatly inspired me as a woman in business and as a woman just devoted to the plants.
Yeah, she's like Benjamin Button. She keeps getting younger. It's wild.
Yeah. She's amazing. And so for me, it just brings me great pleasure. When I took over creatively, I really got to evolve the magazine. I took the purest parts, but I started representing men and women equally as educators, which can be challenging because there aren't as many female breeders or female growers yet. And then just all the people around, Black, Latino, Native, Asian, LGBTQ, and a rich culture of everybody speaking in the space. SKUNK isn't a homogenous voice. It's really about spotlighting thought leaders and visionaries globally and having them all speak in the space. And that just, it's amazing. And it's all happened because the universe and the plants led me here,
Yeah. If you listen to the plant, it speaks.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's my secret sauce.
For sure.
I just listen within.
We live in a really interesting time. I think they were talking about like walking barefoot being so hippy dippy 20 years ago. Now we got guys like Gary Brecka who's talking about grounding now.
Yeah.
And it's not so hippie anymore. There's proven studies that actually grounding is good for you. And it used to be such a hippy dippy thing. And now a lot of things are going in that direction, and we're having science back up stuff that we once thought was just really strange and different, and pretty amazing times.
Yeah, no, I really, we truly are in a renaissance. And, I agree, James. It's been really gratifying because when I was a young woman and studying herbology, I learned a lot of the kind of things that were not really looked at from society, like sitting down and communing with the plants, speaking to the plants. One of my courses, we went out and we looked at the genetic signature of the plant, and we sat with the plant and we let the plant speak to us about what its medicine was. And I think that a lot of these things that seem so strange, the Renaissance is really about. It's really fascinating to just see how so many people are coming out with it.
Yeah.
And as you said, science is now backing it.
Sure.
Even organics. What I've been really pleased about is, like I said, I've been talking about organics. Even before I got into cannabis 18 years ago, I was fighting for organic textiles and farm to table and organic farming and sustainable practices. And it's just fascinating to me, especially in the industry right now. Back, SKUNK is the only cannabis magazine, which many people don't know, is the only cannabis magazine in the world devoted to organics, which trips me out that we're the only one, but that's the truth. And, back 15 years ago, it was definitely fringe, and it's still in the minority. It's not the norm. Most people are still using salts. But what I've seen is that a lot of the quickening that's happening over the last 5 years is a lot of people are abandoning salts, not because they necessarily care about Mother Earth or the soils and the waterways, which we do, but because they see the science, because they see the yields, because they see the terps.
Right.
And it's like, what? You don't want to make money? You have a problem with making more money? And they don't give a fuck about Mother Earth, but they want to make more money. And it's pretty crazy to see all of these big time indoor growers abandoning their salt programs and moving into the future and seeing that it's actually giving them better results. It's pretty gratifying.
Yeah. And I think there's a happy medium, like the Synganic model, where it's like you can use salts, you can do stuff. I think at the end of the day, we want to give the plant what it deserves to represent the best version of itself.
Yeah.
And I believe in salts, and I believe in organic, and I believe that it's all okay. I do love organic. If I'm going to smoke stuff, I like smoking organic flower. Just up at Canna Organics, they grew some amazing, amazing stuff. But I also have friends that grow with cocoa and use inputs that are also organic that do really good.
Yeah.
So it's funny. And on a commercial scale, I think there's a happy medium somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to, I'm about the future and how we're evolving towards, and that's fine. And at the same time, I'm realistic about the industry.
Yeah.
So, and I know we've gotten into this conversation before.
Absolutely.
My job is to hold a standard of the future. I've always said SKUNK is a magazine of the future.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily just covering culture. Yeah. I'm creating culture. I'm a culture maker.
Right.
And so my responsibility is towards Mother Earth and humanity,
right?
Not just towards what works now or what's worked in the past and what performs.
Sure.
In my mind, James, we're like coming out of 125 years of prohibition.
Yeah.
And what prohibition did to farming and agriculture in general, and how we had to approach it and go indoors, which many people around the world, they're going to have to grow indoors.
Yeah.
So I'm not, to me, the epitome is, yes, if you can have outdoor organic sun-grown flower, it's purest with Mother Nature, but I'm also not a fanatic in that sense. I want to see, I guess, cleaner and more sustainable growing practices across the board.
Right.
And just more consciousness that, what happens downstream from you matters.
100%.
That's it. And to me, it's like we want to encourage people of all different types of growing.
Yeah.
Indoor, outdoor, light depth, greenhouse, you name it, hydro. I want to see if there's ways that we can do things more sustainably. And to me, it's a conversation and it's an evolution.
Yeah, and it's education. And I think I would guess that the majority of people don't even know that the reason we're growing indoors is because of prohibition.
Yeah.
So it's so funny because without prohibition, we may all just still be going outside, or we wouldn't have gotten here so quickly and we'd be behind technology wise. But people started growing to hide their plants, started growing indoors.
100%.
And
and that's where I like to go to the root of things and think about that, and then think about how I can respond to that.
Yeah.
Versus just talking about the effect.
Right.
And so going to the root, you see the origin of that was that. And that's why I'm fascinated with, if we were just doing this because it wasn't allowed, because we were hiding.
Yeah.
And then all the input, output, old system of salts came into being from that. That's fine. We don't need to shame or, denigrate the past, but it's like, okay, well, as we free ourselves up, can we continue to evolve? Can we continue to do better in general? Because I believe, James, we're at a crossroads. When I think about the Renaissance, it's like, I know that we have the intelligence and the technology to be regenerative in practically every industry around the world. That's the truth. The main thing that holds us back as a society is not desire. It's not intelligence. It's not the capability. It's the corruption and greed.
Yeah.
We're stymied a bit by the fact that corporations are kind of ruling our governments and stymieing, I think, that forward progression.
Yeah.
At some point, it's going to push to the edge and push over. And I do see that. But, we're seeing organic farming from the hippies in the 60s. It was like very fringe.
Yeah.
And now every market you go into has an organic section.
Yeah. The 80s and 90s and for organics was rough.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the 60s and 70s is where it started and gone back and forth with it. But now I would say that most of my friends eat organic or mostly organic.
Yeah. And people are aware.
Yeah,
it's about awareness
and education.
And it just takes decades of time. And I know, there's some things happening on the planet that are not going to wait that long.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. But for my part, I'm devoted till the end of my days to helping foster more sustainable regenerative practices. Mm-hmm. And I use the term organic, but I want, everybody to know that organic is kind of a bastardized term.
Yeah.
And I heard you use the term synganic. And I've talked with different scientists. I think that we're going to continue to evolve our understandings and our vernaculars, myself included. And SKUNK wants to evolve with it. So I just think it's an evolution, James. I don't think that anything is really set in stone.
No, and we're just learning how to optimize the plants and genetics too. Like we're learning about genetics and where they should be grown, especially when you look at outdoors and what's optimal for what region and, understanding breeding lines more.
Absolutely.
We're just scratching the surface of all that. And some of the big pharma companies, they're a little bit ahead of us, but like as a whole, we're sharing information. We share it in SKUNK magazine. I got my breeding book.
Yeah.
I've got all kinds of stuff. So there's information out there for people that are really looking for it. And this is the kind of stuff this is the beauty of the internet, right? There's a whole dark side to the internet and all the other stuff, but the beauty of the internet is sharing information. And if you know where to go to get reliable information, it can be an amazing thing.
Yeah, I think so. And I often say that the shadow and light work together. It's universal law. I'm very into hermetic principles. And one of those principles is just that those two polarities are always in union.
Yeah.
And so they work together to birth new realities.
Yeah.
And, it's just like the womb and the masculine principle, creates life. And as gardeners and farmers, people know, you're working with the shadow and light to create a balance and to birth, your plants, your food. And so, yeah, I like to think of that too, that, we are in a land of shadow and light, and there's a lot of shadow that's happening. And amidst that, there's great, amazing discoveries of just light and consciousness. And I think that is what always excites me and keeps me going.
Yeah.
Is just keep pushing forward and keep riding this evolution and
Focus
help
on
in
the
any
positive.
way you can. Yeah. To help the good that's being fostered.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Cannabis this year was amazing.
Oh, I love it.
It's a great event. And this was the biggest turnout in a long, long time.
Yeah. It felt really just pulsing with energy. And I think that was my 15th one.
Yeah.
I've been going for a very long time. My grandmother is from Spain, from Catalan. She was southern France, northern Spain, and she spoke Spanish, English, French, and Catalan when she was growing up. So whenever I go back, it's just like it's breathing. And the food, I grew up eating tortilla española and pan de tomate and all the different comida. I was like a part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, just being there just feels so wonderful. And even with the conservative backlash that's happening.
Well, there is conservative backlash for sure.
It was ridiculous.
And you could feel it there. I mean, they did raids the night before the event just to flex. Like that was their flex. Like, we're in charge.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. But there was, 60,000 people that were in Barcelona. Not all of them went to the event even, but people were everywhere.
Yeah.
People passionate from cannabis from all over the world going there to hang out and have a good time and learn about stuff, among other things. Smoke, learn about stuff, see what the latest and greatest. And it's like this collective energy, and it was just so bright this year. Post-COVID, it was kind of rough coming back in. And now there's this new hope. And it's not you don't feel it here in California as much. There's like, people are like depressed about the industry. There's a lot of negative. And over there, you see, like everybody who went felt the positive because people were so excited about the industry. So excited. I mean, I feel like over in Europe, there's like this new turn of things. Germany going legal, Portugal really, pushing for they're doing production over there that's going to go international. That's pretty amazing. And so the energy is definitely different over there, and it's nice and refreshing. And I feel like bringing that back to California, bringing that back to the United States is great because then it motivates people all over again. Like there's hope.
Absolutely, James, 100%. I mean, what I've been feeling and what I've been saying kind of over the last 6-7 years is that in any one state or country, you're going to be dealing with the quagmire of legalization, which can be extremely depressing. Yeah. And you're dealing with genocide of farmers, genocide of small mom and pop businesses. Take your pick. I mean, any country or state, they all have their kind of own version of asinine laws and overtaxation, overregulation. I'm hopeful for Germany. On paper, it looks kind of very looks great. Cool. It looks better than a lot of what we've seen out there. But what I've been telling people for a long time is don't be entrenched if you can. If you get to the level where you can be a global educator and have global projects and different global things happening, that this is a wonderful way to protect yourself. Right. And I'm constantly encouraging, because I'm a brand incubator. I'm in service to brands rising to the next level. And a lot of times I'll advise people in any way you can, find a way to be a global educator, especially if you've given 20, 30 years to this industry and to the plant. Find a way to reach out, even if you remain doing commerce in one state, one country, but find a way to reach out and extend your voice, because I feel like that's going to be the thing that gives you lasting staying power. And those brands that are able to do that journey will, I believe, exist for a very long, the next several decades, if they want.
Well, it's all about legacy. I think as you get older, it's like, what do you want to leave to the next generation? Which brings to the next subject that brings us to the next subject that I had, which was the next generation, Sage.
Yes.
We've got Sage. So I've seen Sage grow up. Your son's Sage. I've seen him grow up in the industry, from being this cute little kid to actually becoming a man who, he's doing extract. He's worked with Humboldt seeds. He's kind of like seen it all and he's finding himself. And so we want to do a podcast with him specifically and a couple of the younger guys, kind of show where they are now.
Yeah.
Because he has a long future in this industry.
Yeah.
And he is the next generation. And it's great seeing somebody like Sage, who is very passionate about cannabis, but sees the business side of it as well.
Yeah, he's a Taurus. And so he's just very practical. And, he grew out 181 plants this last season by himself, yielded 71 pounds. Moved them all at 600 a pound, which was a huge accomplishment considering the climate. And there were dark moments where we talked and it was like, just fucking continue. Whatever you do, don't stop and stay with it. And it was a hard season too, because it was a late start, wet season, and then had to finish early because it was wet.
Rain. Yeah.
And so it was particularly a challenging season as well. So I was proud of him. But it wasn't sunshine and rainbows. And, I've raised him in a very, I think, old world way, which we connected on. But helping him to do a lot of apprenticeship, I pulled him out of conventional school, even though he went to a charter school and he went to a constructivism school, which was learned by doing. But because I raised him when I was a young mom, I was studying herbology and I raised him on the land and I taught him a lot of survival skills and, how to build fire, how to build shelter, how to eat and forage wild edibles and how to make his own medicine and heal himself. I taught him those things as a young person and taught him also a lot of practical things. And I believe in that. I think that it's missing a lot from our world right now, but teaching our young people how to cook, how to balance their budget, how to save money, how to go out and shop responsibly. How to have respect,
These are the
for the dollar.
Basics too.
I know.
These are the basics that aren't taught. I mean, common sense isn't common, unfortunately. But yeah, the younger generation, those are the things, it's like
they
learning how to
spend
cook.
all day in school, but they don't ever learn that. And I've really been a big believer, and I think the renaissance definitely has to happen within education because we know so much about how we have different styles of learners. And a lot of people in cannabis, frankly, are kinesthetic learners.
Sure.
They learn by doing. And they need apprenticeship.
That's why growing plants is so beneficial to younger people, whether you're growing tomatoes or whether you're growing cannabis or whatever you're growing, because you learn commitment, you learn dedication, and you learn that it's not about you. It's about what that plant needs. If you want to be successful, you have to be regimented. You have to be able to wake up and water the plant when the plant needs water or give that plant whatever it needs. And sometimes your needs or wants have to come second.
Totally.
And so that's what I love about growing. That's like one of the most amazing things. And so these younger generation kids, they all need to grow, whether it's tomatoes in their backyard, grow some peas, grow some herbs, whatever it is. I think get connected to the land again. We talk about that a lot, is getting that connection back to the earth, to the soil.
100.
And, I think that's one of the biggest problems is the disconnect with that.
It's true. That's why I chose a charter school for Sage, because they had a whole gardening program.
Yeah.
And they taught the kids. It was actually a course, and they grew their own food and they did their own maintenance of the garden. And it helped me so that when he came home, then he had understandings of things that I was ready to teach him.
Wow.
But I definitely would encourage, all parents to take hold of that for your kids and for yourself, because it does bring so much joy when we do spend time at putting our hands in the soil, and it is extremely healing. And it's cool because science is really proving it.
Yeah.
That scientifically we can now prove that getting all of those microbes and working with the microbiome is actually healing to our person and to our own
health.
Yes, our own health.
Well, and the discipline aspect of it is just so great. And then it's so rewarding to be able to eat something that you grew, smoke something that you grew, consume it in one way or another, but like seeing it from the very beginning to the end where there's no disconnect, where you saw that. And if you had problems, you see the problems at the end too.
Oh, I felt like, I had this conversation with Sage, but I felt like he grew so much in ways that you can't learn from anybody else. And you can't learn it from your parent just telling you. It really is about your ass being on the line. You're on the frying pan and you've got to fucking deliver for yourself, for the plants, for your project. And it does develop you. It does develop you greatly. I agree, James. And I think it was beautiful to watch, and also give space.
Right.
Give space to him. And it was an ass kicker. And it's incredible because now he knows what he can do. Now you learn how strong you are. You learn how capable you are.
Yeah.
By not turning away and staying the course till the very end and doing a job well done and finishing.
And failing.
Yeah.
Failing a lot. Failing is a part of life.
Exactly.
It's one of the most, looking back, failure is one of the most important parts of life because you can't be good at everything. It's not God-given talent that makes you successful. It's failing and getting back up and doing it again and keeping on. And I think that's just so important to experience failure and experience loss and struggle and all those amazing things. But especially failure. It's okay to fail. It's okay to try something and fail. It's okay if you're older and you fail, you just got to get back up and keep on getting up. And some people give up and that's really sad.
Yeah, I agree. I went through a battle last year that I'm not really talking about just yet, but I did find that, again, I know this because I've read so many, texts, sacred texts that talk about the hero's journey or the heroine's journey and how, being obliterated is what actually makes you into the greatest expression of your soul.
Yeah.
And I was talking actually with Nikki from Nikki and Swami, and she's a friend. I was talking with her this morning and was reminded of the Bhagavad Gita and how Shiva talked to Hanuman and Ravana and said that, whoever wants to play the hero or the villain will repeat many less lifetimes. And it always spoke to me that the villain or the person that crosses you is sacred because it does make you. And I think that I'm stronger than I've ever been. And it doesn't matter what comes my way. I know that I can attend. Like I have the strongest sea legs, James, that I've ever had in my life. And it was from the obliteration. It was from really going to zero. And I think a lot of people in the industry are facing that through these different kind of genocidal moments in legalization and what we've had to go through to try and exist in this industry that's just so tumultuous.
Yeah.
So I say it not just for myself, but for all of us that don't fear, like you're saying, don't fear the obliteration. Don't fear the failure and understand that what was within you that made you create something beautiful is within you and nothing can take it away from you. No circumstance, no person, and that you can create it again. Nobody can take what's inside of you away from you. Right. And I think that there's that strength now that I have to know that that center is untouchable. Right. It's untouchable by circumstance. And no matter where I go, I'll do the work that I'm doing. And I think that that's true for a lot of people that have been able to withstand test after test.
Yeah. And some days you just got to get up and you got to get up in the morning and show up for yourself. Right. And don't worry about your friends. Don't worry about other people. Show up, and sometimes it's being present. And I think presence is such a big thing too. Because we can all live in the future and think of how great it could be or how bad it was. But sometimes we just got to focus on right now and today and how do we make this day the best it could be?
100%. Present moment consciousness that's my practice. I mean, maybe people don't know, some people do in the industry, but I was in the health and wellness industries and yoga industry. I ran a yoga studio and taught yoga to kids and studied a lot of the sacred texts. And my practice is present moment practice.
Yep.
And in the present moment practice, I do think it's a very much a secret sauce in business as well. Because while everybody's getting distracted by what other people are doing or, what's going to happen in the future or what happened in the past, if you're in the present, there's always opportunity in the present. There's always treasure in the present. And if you're present and you're listening, you will get guidance on how to move through and where to go, who to talk to, where to be, what to do. The inner guidance system has answers every second of the day. And I think that when we cultivate presence, and that's really my devotion, James, Skunk is definitely teaching people to grow fireweed with fire genetics, and that's our backbone.
Yeah.
But underneath that, there's definitely this feeling of seeding consciousness.
Right.
So that more and more people can access that for themselves because it's available to each individual.
Yeah.
And I think it's so powerful to know that the guidance is always there.
Mm-hmm.
I think of the Bjork song, her song, All Is Full of Love. But she speaks about how love is there for us 24/7. But if you're not picking up the phone, if your doors are shut, if your windows are shut, if you're cutting yourself off, then you're cutting yourself off from that which is available for you 24/7.
Right.
And it's available for everyone. No one's exempt. And so I do like that. And I do want to, in my further work, as I continue to go, I'm definitely going to be working on, and I'm writing a couple books, and I want to do more of that work as I continue to stabilize Skunk. But those worlds of consciousness and commerce and plant medicine merging together in union, not compartmentalized, not separate, that they're in union.
Symbiotic.
Yeah. And that there's this wholeness that we can all feel from, like you said, there's no place to arrive. There's no end goal. We're just present and we're on the journey. Yeah. And we're doing the next thing that we need to do each step of the way.
You got to enjoy the journey.
Yeah, I believe so.
It's an amazing experience once you can look at it from that perspective too. And I think it makes the tough times seem less tough.
I think so. I found levity. I'm a very, I think, serious person and very sincere in how I approach things. And yet, the universe is really always encouraging us to, I think, find levity and kind of relax into the divine comedy of it. And also just attend with discipline and sincerity to our task. But yeah, James, I do think, and they talk about it, that I think that transition from 40s into 50s, there is an invitation if you've done your work and you've done your inner work, no matter what field you're in, no matter where you are, that there is a sense of peace that can come from just being present. And,
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, and I think going into my 40s is when I became a better storyteller. And I see that with a lot of my friends that are transitioning from their 40s to 50s. It's like when you become a storyteller, because you've experienced so much, you can tell stories. And there may be some genetic side to that where it's by design, so that we can tell the younger generation, this is what you need to do to be successful, or this is what you need to do to stay alive in business and other things. But it's amazing. My book, I would never wrote a book in my 20s. I never thought I would write a book. And then writing a textbook, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And then you guys have a magazine. I've written some articles over the last 10 years.
And I want you to participate in the next issue. I want to put an excerpt in there. But yeah, I do. And I think looking at nature, I like nature to inform me in life. I think it's so cool. And what you just said about nature, I think of like the trees that die, and they call them nurse trees. But I learned how they give and are giving certain nutrients that are needed to each individual tree.
Right.
They'll give of themselves, to nourish their growth.
Right.
And I think that that's when we feel joy. I think that the more we can, I forget who said it, if it was Joseph Campbell, but it was the idea that if you align yourself to nature is the goal through observation. And that really is the ancient art of learning and study, was through observation. and through observing nature, then we got the insight and the wisdom. And I feel like that is the Renaissance too, is those of us that are kind of Renaissance people. Mm-hmm. You know, you're a Renaissance man. I'm a Renaissance woman, is that we're the embodiments of it. And in the listening to nature, she's guiding us on how to do things more like her, more in a better way. Right. And I think about that in business a lot, that we are strengthening the mycelial network. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm doing with kind of the expansion that I'm doing and different revenue generating streams. And the way that I'm doing that right now is definitely attempting to model myself off of nature.
Yeah, we live in such an amazing time. I think it's just with technology, we're in the infancy of some of it, and we're long past that in other aspects of it. Medicine, we're just starting to scratch the surface, and we're going back to plant medicine, which is amazing.
We're undoing Rockefeller's, campaign of ignorance. That's profound to me because literally, I think on the first class of herb school when I was like 22, 23, they said, Rockefeller, he went after the apothecary and the apothecarist. His campaign was successful. He formed the American Medical Association and he started pushing pills. Yeah. And they started to go down, and get herbs and plants, say from South America, but then they would create isolates. They would isolate a constituent. They would concentrate that constituent. And that's why, people don't know, but there's all the pharmaceuticals, they have those crazy warnings. Yeah. Because all of the natural plant buffers and the whole plant medicine was taken away. And so I learned about Rockefeller's harm. And then I learned also about the harm of isolates and how people became disconnected from nature through that process, not knowing where things came from. Whereas when you went into the apothecary, you could see the tea or the tincture and which plant it was from. And so I see a returning to that. And I see, again, it's exciting, more and more people that are going to get off of pharmaceuticals or at least learn. I'm not a fanatical person. So I'm not saying all pharmaceuticals are bad or all allopathic medicine is bad. Yeah. I'm more of the modern and the ancient coming together in union.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times in modern medicine, we're treating symptoms rather than going to the root of the problem. And that's with politics, that's with medicine, that's with everything. And it's so, I think a lot of times I go to the counterintuitive side of stuff, but it seems the opposite of what it really is. And sometimes we just look at that symptom as that's the problem. And really we have to go much deeper to the root of the problem. Yeah. And throughout history, it's been like that. I mean, we're fighting issues. We've been fighting issues forever throughout time.
Yeah. But that is the undoing of the harm. And I think that, this second Renaissance is about going to the root of things. Yeah. And that we actually have the technology, like you're talking about the tech, the light side of this technology. And I've always said, like, to fear the internet or to fear AI is to fear ourselves in the sense that we are that. Our brain is that. And when you were talking about kind of other perceptions or sensory perceptions that we have beyond our five senses. Sure. And we do have them. We are able to communicate non-verbally. I've always said that love is akin to light because love travels at the speed of light. Yeah. If I think of you, you feel it. Yeah. In a split second, and then you'll call me or say something, or that I was thinking of you because you'll think about me too. This is all happening, but it's been so pushed down because they didn't want us to be as capable as that. Right. So now it's just a part of us all kind of coming to remembering and also vibrations. Taking the stigma away from what we just naturally do.
Well, yeah, and we talk about vibrations and love being powerful vibration, but the only vibration that's more powerful than love is authenticity.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I read that article. Yeah, that's so funny. That made a huge impact on me because for me, when I read that, it was just maybe it was a couple months ago, and it really spoke to something deep. Because in all these tests, I think that what we're finding, I've always believed that like cannabis, you talk about Bob Marley and how he said the herb reveals you to yourself. Right. And I always told Sage when he started imbibing, I'm like, listen, the plant is going to reveal you to yourself. And what she reveals, you have to do the work. You have to integrate the lessons that she's showing you. You can't just use her and then not do the work, because she's encouraging you on how to keep rising. And I think that, that's really what's happening, is that there's this opportunity that not only is she encouraging us to be conscious, but deeper than that is this feeling of self-love and unconditional love.
Yeah.
Because I've realized now as an older woman that unconditional love of self is really the practice. Because when we get into a space of unconditionally loving ourselves, first off, we can make it through anything. And then second off, we can actually be of service to our community and be loving to our community in a way where we're not expecting anything from anybody. We don't need anything from anybody,
right?
But we can just show up in our wholeness and be present.
Yeah.
And the root of that is the unconditional love and acceptance of self. And that to me is authenticity.
Yeah.
You can't be authentic if you don't fully love yourself. Yeah. There's something there. There's something off. And it's, I think a lot of people deal with it. And I have a lot of compassion, myself included, of imposter syndrome, or just kind of not accepting the self, or judging or berating the self. And I think that also, as we get seasoned and as we age, hopefully, if we're doing our work, we come into a space where we do accept ourselves completely. And I do accept myself completely, my strengths, my weaknesses, my failures, my successes. And in that unconditional loving, I feel like I can really be relaxed and authentic, and I'll actually do good for my community.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I know, it is really cool.
So we are going to take a moment, and we are going to talk about my good friend Dave Mesford, who is struggling with cancer right now. We filmed the podcast episode, but he gave me some special flower, which I want to share with you. It's called Blue 13.
Oh my gosh, Dave.
It is amazing. He's just a great person.
We love you, Dave, and his best bud, Vivian McPeak, our managing editor. Vivian has been, keeping me posted and sharing with me everything that's been happening with Dave. And I just, my heart goes out to him. He's such a special fellow, and I wish he wasn't leaving us so soon. And
it's been a 3-year struggle.
Yeah.
It's been a 3-year uphill battle with cancer, and he's a fighter. He's lived a lot longer than the doctor said he would.
Yeah.
And it's sad, but I went to see him, and he gave me the last jar of his Blue 13. Blue Crow Organics is his brand. And the flower is special. So I get a lot of flower from people all over, and everybody thinks their stuff is special. And Dave didn't have to tell me this stuff was special. You can smell it. It has an amazing blueberry nose, but the effect more than anything is what I really like about this.
Got some pining in there too.
It has a lot of good stuff.
I really like that. That's beautiful. And I'd like to come as a thank you to Dave.
And Dave is a great guy. He's a great photographer. He helped start CannaCon, HempFest. He worked with HempFest. He was a volunteer for many years. He took the first photo of me when I was in High Times in 2012. And he's also a breeder and a grower and very passionate. He's a revolutionary in his own right, and a really good guy. And he's always excited to talk about flower and cannabis and everything else, seeds, breeding, storing pollen.
He's special. He
is special. The flower is special. The effect of the flower is really special, and the flavor. And the flavor kind of matches the effect. It's a strange thing to say because we're talking about two different perceptions, but the flavor is mild but terpy. But it has this nice blueberry that coats your mouth and just stays with you.
Yeah, and it's in my upper palate. There's this sense of pine, like a pine forest, and then there's blueberry on the tongue.
Yeah, it's complex. It's not just one thing, but even the effect is it's not a super long effect, but it's really enjoyable, and I feel like it's one of those things I could smoke all day long and just be happy.
I felt, I feel like
happy
a
weed.
brightening right away.
And it's one of those ones that doesn't get you tight behind the eyes. It's very productive. And Allison Drayson, she really likes it as well.
That's yummy.
So yeah, we're going to get this strain out there to people.
Well, let's do a strain report in the next issue.
I would love to do it.
Let's do something in an homage to Dave. I've been talking with Vivian about it as well. So let's do something special. I know he would be so happy to see his herb come out in print.
Absolutely. He took the photo on the back of the book. That is the Blue 13 male that's on the back. Special stuff. He contributed a whole bunch of photos, and he's just a great all-around great guy. So
that's awesome. Well, let's celebrate him. Absolutely. He deserves to be celebrated.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love celebrating the conscious men in the industry. I really do.
For all of us, our time will come to an end at some point.
Yeah.
And there's people like Dave who are really revolutionaries and have been advocates for the plant. And, it's great. And to be able to record his story was an amazing thing, to be able to film a podcast with him.
Yeah.
I think we got 3 hours of footage.
Wow.
And I got some great stories, and, I love it. And there's so many people that I've known in the last 30 years where I didn't get their story. So I'm glad I had the opportunity to be able to get that one.
That's a huge gift. And it does. I mean, honestly, it brings healing. I'm serious when I say that I really like covering the conscious men in the industry, because it does bring healing to the whole community to see men of integrity, men who kept their word, men who were protectors, men who were servants to their community. It's so beautiful to celebrate them, because it's not only about them, it's about all of the young men and women coming up being nourished by that, and our own community being nourished by that. Right. So I am, it's a gift, and I'm very happy that Vivian has had time to slow down with him and be with him. I mean, what a gift to exit in that way. My grandmother just passed, and we were able to be with her and surround her with love as she journeyed. And I just love it. I just think that that's so wonderful to have a conscious transition.
Yeah.
That's surrounded by everyone you love. It's such a blessing. Not everybody gets that.
Not everybody gets that, for sure. And it's just, I mean, we live in an amazing time with cannabis being where it's at, where we can openly talk about it. Mm-hmm. And so it's great to be able to get these stories and be able to pass on stuff for the next generation as well.
Yes, it is. Yeah, absolutely. So, we've got to keep going.
Absolutely. So Skunk Magazine is special in many ways, but one thing that I think that makes Skunk Magazine is really special is it's very inclusive rather than exclusive for its writers. You get writers from all walks of life. For those guys that are watching, or ladies that are watching the show, if you guys want to write an article, you can submit it to Skunk and they will consider publishing it if it's good. I don't think you get that with most magazines, and I think that's one of the beauties of Skunk.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I really wanted it to have a community feeling, a global community feeling, because we are a global magazine, and that was really important to me. And when I took over creatively, I set about to create a different type of program with writing.
Yeah.
And so I have like 80 to 100 contributors globally, and they're all told of deadlines, and they're all invited in, and they can submit content, which, if it's worthy, it can be published in that issue. It could be published online, or it could be published in the next issue. So it's open-ended, because, dealing with stoners, I learned quickly that if I just had the set people, I might be short a few articles. Mm-hmm. So now I have this flow where we get more content than we need, and then we do that thing where we either push it online or push it to the next issue, and it works out really well.
Yeah.
And then, a lot of people will say they can write and they can't write. And so that's what it is.
Proof is in the pudding. Everybody thinks they can do.
But people can try.
Yeah.
And if it's good, definitely we'll consider it. And we want to encourage that,
Brandon Rust has been writing some good stuff for you guys.
Yeah.
So he's amazing. And Organics, he does some good stuff. He's really well spoken. He's a real good writer. He's really well-rounded and really passionate about cannabis.
Yeah, no, I really like that. And it is very different because, and I've been, people have not understood what I was doing, but now I think that they are understanding. And there's something about it where it's not like the other rags where you can just kind of buy your way in and then there's an advertorial article.
Yeah.
I'm honing in on thought leaders, visionaries, and they're usually company owners or somebody on staff at the company. And then they tell the story of their brand through education.
Right.
I do believe that the future of marketing is authenticity and open source, DIY, kind of intimate feeling.
Right.
That's what people are really responding to.
Yeah.
The old way of just pushing advertorial content and that feeling of lack of substance or lack of soul or lack of meaningfulness, I think that a lot of end consumers are really not into, and they're not going to respond to it as they will with this type of thing. So what I love about it is that it's actually coming from the people. A lot of the content is coming from the people that are living it.
Right.
And they're sharing their insights. And then it's actually something, I mean, I want every skunk is a collectible. It's like an educational tome.
Right.
And I just pushed the pages up to 160 pages.
Yeah, after printing my book, I understand what that means, and a lot of people don't.
No.
But it means that you're paying more money for your magazine, and
it's like buying a car every quarter.
Yeah, well, we're 380 pages in the book, and it's not cheap.
Yeah, I do it every quarter without fail.
Yeah,
and it's intense. It is intense, but after doing it for 12 years, it's also easy. I know what I have to do, and I get it done no matter what, and you just do it.
Right.
But I'm really excited because this year is going to be very different. I'm launching seed sales with the subscription, the Seed Savers Club. So in the US, you're going to be able to receive the subscription with the choice of your seeds.
Yeah.
And the Seed Savers Club is all about protection and preservation of genetic histories and lineages and encouragement of proper genetic work in the industry going forward. Proper inbreeding, proper strengthening and development of lines, and just a lot more knowledge and respect and consciousness coming forward. That's why I definitely want you to participate. After this, I definitely want to talk to you. But it's going to be cool because I'm particularly talking with soul breeders, people that are true stewards and practice true husbandry of the plant. And it's about nerding out and honestly enjoying nature together, developing interesting and unique expressions together, and then also thriving together. I think that, in this Renaissance also, I've been told that those of us that are activated globally on behalf of healing and empowerment are going to thrive in the bones of a dying world and crumbling societal structures. Those that are actually bringing healing, medicine, empowerment in some way, there's a pathway for you to thrive because millions more people around the planet are going to need to access their healing and access, alternative forms of medicine.
Right.
So, and that's why I say, just keep going, no matter what, keep going. And that's what we're going to do with these different programs of monetization. I just sold 30 pounds of chocolate skunk into the California market with Sonoma Hill Farms. And they're going to be doing
30 pounds of seed.
No, 30 pounds of flour.
Oh, wow.
And they're going to be doing 5X that for this season.
Nice.
So that was a successful program. And
Excellent.
I have another, 15 licensing deals on the table. So that's another way that I'm going to be protecting skunk is working with craft makers, award-winning flour, award-winning hash makers.
Diversifying.
Yeah. And that's the way that I'm going to protect skunk and remain agile.
Yeah.
And also do something of substance where I'm telling the story of what the craft maker is doing all the way from seed to the final sale and showing the journey through the magazine. So it's pretty exciting to bring those worlds together. And I've been waiting to do that for a long time.
So a lot of people think that books and magazines are dying and they're going away.
Yeah.
How do you feel about
that? Oh my God. If I had a nickel for everybody who has said to me, print is dead. And I mean, it's just laughable to me because, I'm an alchemist in the sense that I think of things magically and have studied magic. And the thing that I know about, the written word is that the written word will always have power. There's the power of the word, and there's nothing that's ever going to change that. And, I've evolved with the times. We only do 4 issues a year. We do them with the seasons. We do quarterly, and we have a rich storytelling online, rich storytelling through social. And we're actually bringing our forums back this year as well. We're right on the cusp of that. So they will be back hopefully by the fall. So I'm not about having all my eggs in any one basket, but there's something about the power of print that will always remain, I believe. And I believe also that, in the pandemic, a lot more people went to, independent bookstores started coming back, and a lot more people, I think, changed forever.
Yeah.
There's certain things that change in our world where we're never going back. The old way of doing certain things, like the classic 9 to 5 and the classic office job, has kind of been turned upside down on its head. They still exist, but a lot of people, so many more people work from home or have flex schedules.
Yeah, work 410s, there's so, and that was going on a little before, but now it's definitely more extreme than it ever has been, with people working from home, people doing, working multiple jobs where they have small work schedules.
Yeah. So I think it's dynamic. It's about being dynamic more than anything, and being multifaceted. And that's really what I'm about. I would like to print skunk on hemp. I definitely want to do that. But I will always print skunk.
Ouch.
Yeah, I know. I know.
It's wild.
Well, we got to talk about that.
I think it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And I think it would be.
We're not there yet.
No, we're not there yet.
No.
We will be there.
We will be there.
We're just not there yet.
Yeah. So I'd like to be the first to do it. I'm working on it. And, we're going to be launching also, I'm working on a new project. We're going to be doing something called the Cannabis Guidebook, and it's going to be a free magazine. And it's going to be more for the end consumer and more for the mainstream consumer.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, a mixture of like a Michelin book showing the best in show, along with like a little bit of Rolling Stones and a little bit of Monocle. It's something that I've been waiting to do. I did a free magazine like 7 years ago, The Highway, but this is going to be something different. And again, it's needed. There's not really anything out there that's going to be quite like this. We're going to have a marketplace component as well. That's going to be very affordable to work with us, for the small mom and pop dispensaries, for the craft farmer. So definitely inspired by Whole Earth Catalog as well. If you know that counterculture publication, it had very much a marketplace feeling. So we're going to be bringing those feelings back, because I love counterculture rags through time. Like, I've studied them, and I don't know if you know Richard Jurgensen, who has the archive up in Willits, but he has an amazing collection of magazines through time over the last, 75 years, 80 years. Wow. And so I get inspired by things that have been past, and then ways that we can kind of bring those good ideas back, but in a modern way. So I'm excited about this, and it's going to be bilingual. But again, it's not, to me, like, we still need print. And I think that print won't die. I just think it's evolving, and I don't think it's dead. And I'll be a long standing person in that regard, because, it's already existed for thousands of years, and it's not going anywhere. It's something ancient, and I think that it's going to continue to evolve, but we'll continue to evolve with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So if you had one piece of advice, usually I ask about one piece of advice for yourself, but if you have one piece of advice for the younger generation, for Sage's generation, one piece of advice that you could share with everybody about the industry, about yourself, what would that be?
I say, basically the most important thing is be your own constant, be your own guiding force, and seek the answers within. Don't look outside of yourself in the sense of ever comparing yourself to anyone else. Try as much as you can to cultivate that presence with yourself in the moment and listen within and follow that. Follow your own inner moonlight and let that guide you, because that will protect you through anything. And just turn down the noise on the outside as much as you can. Certainly get inspired by those people that inspire you. Also, seek them out. And I think that, old school apprenticeship, I've always told Sage, learn from everybody that you can and learn every aspect that you can. And, he's been studying hash making for several years now. And now he's just been going through chopping fresh frozen and that whole process. And it's fascinating. And no matter what he settles on doing, it's just wonderful when you show up for life and you're willing to learn and study and grow and attend to a situation. I think that a lot of young people, they need to understand that it's about time. Over time is how they're going to get the best results and have the most meaningfulness in their life.
Yeah.
They can't expect something to happen so quickly in 1 year or 2 years, that it's when you devoted 10 years, 15 years, that you start to see the results of your work.
A lifetime.
Yeah. No, and just continuing on. So, and that's perseverance.
Sure. Yeah.
I would say to a lot of people interested in getting in, keep your own, be your own constant and never stop.
Yeah.
Never stop. You just keep going no matter what, and always
Believe in
seek the way forward.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, it's been great having you on here today. This has been fun.
It's been so awesome.
Yeah.
I love you and Jeanette, and I'm thrilled at what you're developing, James. Kudos to you, to your show, to your book. And love you, my friend. Thank you for having me on.
So if people are interested in finding more about you and Skunk Magazine, where should they go?
They go to skunkmagazine.com. They go to Skunk Magazine, type it all out, because we're all shadow banned on IG and Facebook. And they can also seek me out, Julie Chiariello. I'm very easy to find as well. And just pay attention to what's going to be coming out. We're launching skunk genetics with the Seed Savers Club. We're bringing 5 properly inbred skunk crosses to market at the end of May. And so that's going to be very exciting for people who have been looking for that. And check out what we're going to be doing in the year ahead.
Life's an adventure.
It is. It never stops.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.